nice Christmas time here. It was Ajahn Mudito did most of we had a Word of the Buddha retreat. I was supposed to be conducting it and I got COVID. Great. So that was quite an interesting experience. Managed to squeeze it in for the year. Actually, I haven't had COVID yet, so it was quite an experience. I think I copped it pretty hard, I think. I was in Singapore, and it was so nice. People really, always take care of us. We've done the chanting, you don't need the list anymore. Anyways, you can take it, yeah. And I just felt like I was in this beautiful place when somebody's taking care of me, being sick, and it's so nice. Being a monk is one of the beautiful things about being a monk is our monastic monks and nuns, we're always on the receiving end of the kindness, and I think it's one of the beautiful things being a monk. Or nun, sorry, of course. It's hard to always remember. So, today is what, 31st of December, is it again? Where did that go? I was thinking, Ajahn Mudito was asking, I think it might be my COVID. My mind is not super clear. Not that it's ever super clear, but it's even more cloudy than usual. So I had nothing coming to my mind. Yesterday night, I was looking at my mind. Is there something I need to talk? Look at my mind, nothing, blank. This morning I was brushing my teeth. Is there something? What should I talk about? Nothing, blank. I was getting a bit worried. Then I was washing the dishes there with Ajahn Mudito. I was like, and after the breakfast, and I was like, oh, well, okay. I could think about, endings. The year is ending, so we could talk about the year. What has happened during the year? It's the 31st of December. What has happened? Somebody has died. There's a lot of people have died. There's always somebody in the outer, at least as a monk we see so many, we go to funerals. I just went to funeral day before yesterday, just 15 minutes ago. I got a text message from India saying that one of our, somebody we both know, somebody had died in Finland. Very nice person. He was Sri Lankan, but he went to Finland many decades ago, and he apparently helped. He was one of the first ones there, and he helped. He did a lot of good things for the community, the Sri Lankans in Finland. So I'm sure a lot of people were very grateful for him. But I'm sure a lot of us, we have family members. I know some of you who have family members who have passed away. So we remember those people who have helped us. And it's interesting, sometimes things get blur in the years. I was just thinking, I had family members who died, and I was thinking, was it this year or was it last year they died? Things just get so, life goes on. That's how it is, isn't it? Everything sort of blends into one another. We don't know whether it was this year or last year. But it's interesting with this, with endings, there's always, something is always going to end. Sometimes, anything you do, whatever you do in life, there's always going to be the last time you're going to do it. No matter how many times you do it. Or you're brushing your teeth every morning. There's going to be a one time, that's the last time you brush your teeth. Right? It's going to be last time. My dad was they took his driver's license away. He's got Alzheimer's, so it was sort of a blessing that they took it away, although it's difficult because we live in quite a remote farm. My mom and dad are still there. So they're now thinking how to get around from the farm. That there's always last time you're going to do anything. So that was the last time he drove. They drove to the doctors. Doctor, he said, I'm taking your driver's license away. And he said, that's you can only drive back home, but that's it. You cannot drive anymore. Mom she had other plans. Mom told Dad, well, we're still going to go and see our daughter, my sister. It's we're still going to go there. And they actually went to have a pizza. They drove to a pizza place. Just, squeeze it in while you last time you drive. So they went to have a pizza. And then there was an accident on the road towards my sister's place, so they didn't go. They would have probably driven. Just squeeze it in. Last day, just do it. But so they didn't go to my sister's place. So they had a pizza and they went back home. And that was it. Dad parked away the car. He's been driving since, I don't know, 75 now, so he's been driving probably 50 years, whatever. He got his driver's license when he was 18, probably 19, when he was in the military. Yeah. Isn't it amazing? Like we get so used to these things, like driving. It's a big thing when it's taken away from us. There's always a last time you're going to be driving. Some point the doctor comes to you and says, no, it's not safe anymore. We have to take away your driver's license. And we depend on that. How much we depend on just driving if we got used to it. There's always a last time you're going to do that. Some point you start getting slowly, you cannot brush your own teeth anymore. Maybe somebody has to brush it for you. There's going to be a last breath, obviously. That's really starting to go pretty close to the end. But even, there's endings all the time. The year is ending. But perhaps there's also good things happen in our lives. Maybe this year we got closer to the Dhamma. We got closer to the what the Buddha was teaching. Meaning we aligned ourselves more in a way what the Buddha was teaching, the Eightfold Path. We are slowly we leaned a little bit more towards the Dhamma, towards the awakening ourselves. What's the point of coming to the Buddhist Society and listening to Dhamma talks and all that if nothing like that happens? If it's just a theory, if it's just something happened somewhere in the books, in the history, in 2,500 years ago. But if it cannot happen anymore, it would be a very sad story. But it can happen to all of us. We are just people like everybody. All the people 2,500 years ago, people 2,000 years ago, all the Sangha who has been keeping the tradition alive until now. We're the same. We're in the same boat. Perhaps you don't think about the individual monks or nuns. Perhaps there's like, oh, they're not so good. Perhaps I'm the second best. I'm sure they used to be a lot better quality, the Sangha. But we are following in the footsteps. With the Dhamma is still alive. It's still here with us and we can experience it. It's timeless. There will come time when, well, even this the Dhamma, the Buddha's word, will disappear. There's interesting suttas says somewhere that some point there will be just monastics. Actually, it says monks in that sutta, and they just have a little string or like a cloth over their shoulder and underneath the armpit, and then they call themselves a Sangha. And that's the only Sangha what's left. That the Buddha's teachings have almost disappeared, but there is this what they call themselves Sangha, but they don't really keep the precepts or anything. Nothing is really left, and they don't know really the word of the Buddha anymore. That it's almost disappeared. But then there's one layperson who wants to do something good, and she wants to give dana, and she gives the dana and she dedicates. She gets the inspiration from that I'm giving this dana to Sangha of the past, present, and the future. And because of that giving, that she contemplates, that she's giving it to the past, present, and futures, meaning that there's been a pure Sangha, if maybe not that time anymore. The word, the teachings have almost disappeared. But just because she gives it out of that kindness of her heart, and she dedicates it, and she contemplates the Dhamma, the Sangha, the Buddha says it's a high merit. It's almost as if you would give to the Sangha, which is present. And these days we're very lucky to have that we have a tradition which is alive. We have monks and nuns, which is really rare. The nuns order has been reviving slowly, and it's getting better and better. So there's one of the highest merits is actually to give for the both sanghas. It used to be that you give to the Buddha, and the Buddha leading the sangha, but the Buddha is gone. So it's almost as good as you give it to the both sanghas. So we always need to keep reminding that we're very lucky that the teachings are alive and the sanghas are doing well. But going into that topic, that there's always going to be a last time you do everything. There's always going to be a last time you see somebody, your friend. It could be also that, it doesn't mean they have to pass away, but maybe they move on, maybe they go to study somewhere else and you lost contact. This year, actually, I was very, very lucky. I met one of my friends from my village, and first time in 20 years I haven't seen him. Went to school for a long time with him, and it's quite interesting. I never experienced, because I come from countryside. I don't have a lot of friends like that, and it almost felt like, even though we didn't see each other for 20 years, it really felt like we could pick it up where we left it. When you know somebody really well since childhood, it's a really easy to pick up that friendship. It's really easy to kindle that. But it's a quite interesting reminder that even those things, we think something is stable. Families can drift apart as well. Families, somebody moves overseas, or obviously if they move along completely, if they die, there's going to be always a last time we're going to see them. And years go by and we don't really contemplate those things, how everything is anicca. It's basic Buddhism, and for me, it's what got me into Buddhism is this teaching of anicca. I remember one of the first teachers I used to people ask me sometimes how do I get into Buddhism? Why do I become a monk? And one of the reasons why I became Buddhist is I was living in New York at the time, and I went to this meditation class. I started to go in. There's different groups. It's hall like this. They used to do yoga there, and different Buddhist groups come together. And I just got so involved. I was so excited. I felt I finally find something. I belonged somewhere. It was like coming to a home. But one of the teachers who was teaching there, he said, he was like, okay, I'm going to teach tonight. I'm going to teach about basic Buddhism. And he said he thought about the concept of anicca. Anicca is the Pali word, and it means like impermanent, unreliable. Things are always changing. And even this year, we don't really see so much change, right? It's how different is it? How different are you from the 1st of Jan last year until now? How different are you? Maybe you have lost somebody. There is difference in your family. There's a difference in your circumstances. But how different are you really? But you are different, right? You are slightly older. You're a year older. Something has changed. It's difficult to pinpoint what has changed. Can you really put a finger on to something which really changed in you since last year?
Have more gray hair.
You have more gray hair, yes. Perhaps you can see, but how many gray hair? I definitely, luckily I don't have that much hair, but I have definitely, that's a good point. I have gray hair because of this building project we've been doing. How did I get involved with this retreat center build? I should be a forest monk meditating. I'm a curmudgeon now. When is this going to be? Last year I said, soon it will be ready. I'm saying the same thing again. Soon it will be ready. There will be a retreat center. We're working hard on it. I'm promised. Hopefully next year. We're 80% ready with I have a lot more gray hair. Probably, luckily, I shaved them off. I don't know how many more, but there is physical changes. Yes, absolutely. I experience some physical changes which are not pleasant. Not mention the COVID now. A couple of weeks ago, I managed to squeeze COVID into this year, so that was good. But I talked about more mentally. Gray hair, health issues happens. Yeah. Mentally, how different are you from last year? These 365 days. There's not much change I can see. It's hard to pinpoint the change from last year. Or this whole year, what has happened rather. There's something happened. Maybe there were good meditations you had. Maybe you got something out of the Dhamma. Maybe there's something which chipped away you closer to that, realizing that there is no point of holding on so much. Maybe this impermanence affects you as well. Talking about the anicca, trying to keep with that now for a while. It's one of the teachings with the anicca of impermanence and reliableness, that anything in this world is subject to change. Can you see anything in this universe? I've been quite obsessed now. They put on that James Webb telescope. Once in a while I go look at the beautiful James Webb things. And it's peering into the dark ages where the universe starting. They have the red shift, and they can see further and further away into the red shift. But is there anything in the universe which is not changing? It's in constant movement. Something, there's new stars rising, and there's solar systems and galaxies and whatnot, and just the pictures are beautiful how it's changing, and there's always somewhere new places starting. And perhaps there's even new this kind of habitable planets. Maybe there are beings being born and gaining knowledge, and they have minds which are starting to appear like our minds. Maybe they had been minds, and maybe those the minds have just disappeared again. The time scale is just so vast that it's not possible that there never was any kind of consciousnesses which are aware somewhere, some point. It's just such a vast universe out there. But they are subject to the same movement like we are. They are subject to the same forces of nature, or the Dhamma, anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, suffering, and non-self. And so we peer with the James Webb outside there, and we start coming closer and closer to this blue dot. Yesterday I read the space news, and they said what's the furthest one? The NASA sent the one few decades ago. That one where it's the furthest away. Anyway, so what? Okay, so it's not coming to me, but this space probe what they sent decades ago, which has the golden disc, Voyager 2 now. It's almost they cannot communicate too well with it anymore. So that was the news. Anyways, and one of the last pictures Voyager took was that little, and it was 1 pixel when it turned back, and then they actually turned off the cameras to save power on the Voyager 2 when it was flying out. The last picture it took and sent back to Earth there was a 1 pixel of blue pixel, and there was Earth. That was us. In this vast space, there was like a blue dot. We're very insignificant when you look at pictures like that. 1 blue dot. And he sent, that was actually a long time ago, and then they closed down those instrument. And then same, you're zooming into this blue dot, and then it's just like, oh, that's us there. Like, wow, we're so important, and we zoom into the earth. And same, anything in this earth, can we see that it's not subject to change? Ice ages come, and then there's global warming now, and what's happening in this beautiful planet of ours, which is just perfect for us to live. Now we're starting to get it into age of artificial intelligence, another favorite subject of mine. Can artificial intelligence become conscious? Can there be such a point that it starts to realize I am something, that they can actually sort of reflect back? Definitely not now, and definitely not for a long time, but we can do that. We have the ability to reflect. We can turn our minds back to our inside and see, like, and we can see ourselves individuals and all that. But I think some point artificial intelligence there can be awareness coming. Perhaps it will appear at some point, probably. And they're still subject to anicca, dukkha, anatta. Even the artificial consciousness will be subject to change and disappearance and all of those things. And it will only point when it actually become awareness is that when he realized that everything is subject to these things. And what, if it's really intelligence, what do you think is going to happen to artificial intelligence? If it's really intelligent, what will it do? It will turn itself off. That's the smartest thing it can do. Why? We can see everything as suffering. What's the point of, like, it will just go, just pull the plug, that's it, I don't want to appear. If it's really smart, if it's really intelligent, in the Buddhist terms, intelligence, that's artificial intelligence. That's the smartest thing it will do if it gets really intelligent. But anywhere in this world, everything in this world is subject to change. And if you look at in your own body and mind, yes, the gray hair, in your own mind, can you see anything which is permanent in your own mind? Since the first day of this year to the last day now, is there something which is perfectly exactly the same? It cannot be. The functions are perhaps there, but how can you say?
Functions of my senses still working?
They are working, yes. Yeah, I'm sure your functions of the senses are still working. But can you see that there is this kind of overall overarching, this is me, this is who I am, and it's the same, that it has not changed. We can actually, if you're really smart, if you really see self somewhere, you say, this body is self. I cannot see that much change since first to now. It's hard to see the gray hair, and it's hard to see the new wrinkles. But you're very much the same. If you're really smart, you can actually say, this body, this is who I am. But to say your mind is you, or soul, or however you want to call it, mind, soul, consciousness, to say that's you, that's really, really wrong way of looking at it, because your mind is changing all the time. Your mind is completely different what it was this morning when you wake up and when you're now. There's actually completely different mind. Every mind moment is completely different. But we hold on to that. There is this idea things shouldn't change. But things do pass away and they reappear again, differently. So even if something disappears, it's not completely disappearing. Nibbana obviously happens, but everything in your mind disappears on one thing and appears, the next appearance is different. So it's disappearing and reappearing all the time. And it's a different thing. What disappears is different things than what reappears. So that's your mind. So every mind moment is different. So even if we have passing away, your ending of your 5 khandhas, even if your pet dies or your loved one dies, they disappear as one thing and appear as the next thing. Your mind always needs an object. We just had the Word of the Buddha class here. And it's a nice, it almost gives us confidence. And it's like, because it's a sad thing to think that somebody just disappears and you never see them again or something. But you see it for yourself in your own body and mind. Your body, it's disappearing and appearing all the time differently. It's changing. There's this constant change in your body, constant change in your mind all the time. But we're not so sad about it. How can you be sad that your mind is different from this morning to now? How can you be sad about it? Then how can you be sad that your mind is different from the first day this year to now? Yet it's completely quite different. You see some kind of cohesiveness there, but it's constantly changing, reappearing and disappearing. But we're not so sad about it. But when somebody dies and the body disappears, so to speak, we see the disappearance, then it gets us sad because we think that's the person is the body. But the person is so much more. We are our minds as well. And then whatever your mind takes as an object, that is who you are. There's always, your mind needs an object. Mind itself is nothing. Mind needs something to exist. It's almost like we are this, there's this kind of like a screen somewhere where we reflect ourselves into that screen or mirror and we see ourselves in it. And the mirror cannot disappear. We're always reflecting ourselves. But it is just a process. And sometimes the process gets disrupted, and then we can really see where that we thought we'd appeared somewhere, but then that wasn't the case. And obviously, what the easy thing is to see where somebody has brain dementia, for example, Alzheimer's. It starts affect your brain, and that cohesive sense of self. What do we think there was a person? Because the brain works as almost like, how would I say? The brain, it's like a filter. The brain works as a filter system. So we filter through the brain. So the brain, there is a function. Brain has a function. We cannot say you don't appear in your brain if we do that thing where you appear, and quite often people point into the chest. It's like you have a mind, and it's in this hard region, or you can say you appear in your brain. The brain is there, and it has a function. It's almost like it filters the universe. And the only way Buddhism to work is that because it's a process. That because if something was fixed, if there was nothing changing, if there was something which is permanently, reliably there, where we could point that self, well, Buddhism would not work. The word of the Buddha would not work if there was a fixed entity which would always constantly be there. For example, a soul, a mind, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. If there was such a thing, everything in Buddhism would not work. Nothing what we teach would not work. The reason is, we were talking yesterday in the word of the Buddha, and one of the things is where are you? Okay, so you're the brain or you're the memories and all that. But let's say we talk about the memories or your ideas. Where are your memories and ideas stored? If somebody dies, somebody disappeared this year, and they had a life. They had memories. They grew up they were child, they were young adult and all that, and they aged and they passed away. That person's memories went with that person. They disappeared. Can you say they are stored somewhere? Or your memories? Where is your memories where you can recollect your childhood experiences or what happened this week and this and that? Where do they exist? Do they have a weight? Is there energy somewhere? Are they stored somewhere? Are your memories stored somewhere? Is there such a place in somewhere in the universe where your memories are stored? The Buddha did not say yes. He can recollect his past life, but where they're stored. The question is where they're stored. Where is your memories? Where the Buddha's past lives are stored? Where is your past life stored? What is there an energy somewhere? Is there like where's memories? Where does memories come from? You could say yes, they could be like, if you believe they're in the brain, that's fine with me. I'm not saying that, but then we have this idea, if you're really Buddhist, where is past life memories stored? Why don't we remember our past lives? Why don't you remember them? Well, I can barely remember what I had for breakfast, and that was, an hour ago. How do I remember my past lives? Come on, hey. Those kind of memories are different. The deep meditations are like when you start getting to the deep meditations, you actually see clearly for yourself. Those are not like memories. Memories are a very fuzzy thing, right? You don't remember. There is this kind of cohesiveness. There is a little bit of nicha, a little bit of permanence in this. What happened from day one this year to this now? You can see there's this kind of a stream of consciousness going around. You floated in this universe, in this space of yours. There is a certain kind of limits you have. We could call that a karma. We could call that conditioning. You are you. You are from day one this year to now. You are the same. Very much, very close. It's almost like a river. We can give a river a name because it had a shape. It's flowing in one space, and it's all those things, and it has water. So it's a river. We give it a name. And there's that old simile, can you dip your toe into the same river again? If you dip it and take it out and dip it again, are you dipping your toe into the same water? You can see clearly that there's a river, but the river is never the same. You are never the same. But the flow of movement stays, even from day one this year to day 31st this year when we have the last day. There's a flow, there's a movement, but it's very sort of vague. There's a certain kind of experiences. You can see things happened, or maybe there is quite a big events happened, like passing away of a family member or pet or those kind of things. They leave them an imprint, but it doesn't change us that much. It leaves memories. It leaves those many kind of things. But there's always going to be the last point. So today is the last day of this year. And are we so sad about it? No. It's just it's a concept. The flowing continues. But the same thing, there's always going to be the last time you do something. It's going to be a last time you do something this year. It's going to be a last time you meet a friend. There's going to be a last time do anything. Whatever you do, there's going to be a last time. But try to keep chipping away from that idea that this change means ending, that there is cut point. Try to get into this idea of closer to the Buddhist idea, closer to Dhamma. It's almost like a mirage. It's illusion. Don't give it so much value. Don't be so saddened, surprised when you lose your health. Don't be so sad when somebody disappears from your life and they continue into another life where we don't see them perhaps because their mind continues with their karma. Don't be so surprised when change happens in life. Be more at ease. think about, contemplate idea, what's valuable in life. This might be the last time when you come to the Buddhist Society. Anything you do in life, there's always a last time. Whatever you do, value things which are worth valuing. Contemplate things which are worth contemplating. Is it really worth of contemplating negative things, holding on to them? Somebody has hurt you. You have done things which you cannot pull back. Even those kind of things. Sometimes actually I feel within my own mind, the worst thing is like I've done something, but I cannot change it anymore. Something has happened, you either did something or you did not do something. And I wish I would have done otherwise. That's actually a big thing. We have to keep working on those feelings. Sometimes those, at least for me, the heavy burden I carry everywhere is that I wish I did something or I did not do that. Not that there's so many things that they've done to me, because it's easier for me to forgive others almost than to forgive myself. So any of that, think it out as Buddhism, we could say it's a Mara's domain. Anything you hold on to that, it's an idea of self. Even that is Mara's domain. You bit into that idea of self. And the stronger you have that idea, even that kind of negative thinking of yourself, even you think, I must hold on to this negative idea of myself, don't hold on to onto that too much. Don't hold on too strongly into that. Because you're making something out of nothing. It's a mirage. The sense of self is an illusion. It is constantly changing. It is never existing somewhere outside of your own imagination. And when it disappears, allow it to disappear. And this is meditation now I'm talking about. If you meditate and the nagging thoughts are still there, what's the best course of action? Don't hold to anything. Don't push it away. Don't hold it. That's the best course of action. And then when they talk about in the sutras, but they talk about fully enlightened ones, the arahants, they said any kind of holding or pushing away, any kind of rejection or holding on has disappeared. Sure, that's a high standard, but you can be a little bit of arahant yourself. I have full faith in you. You can do it. We can all do it. And come to the Buddhist Society, learn those ways to do that, to learn how to be a little arahants, little enlightened ones. Come here, keep doing, keep coming. And you don't hold on to the ideas of, I'm this is who I am. I'm holding on to the sadnesses, even the good things. Those are good things to actually hold on many things if you've done something kind and all that, because they disappear very easily. You don't really make a strong sense of self out of that. So hold on to those ideas. But that's not so difficult to let disappear. So keep coming here, keep meditating with us, keep listening to the monks and nuns who come here to teach. Come to the monastery. Hopefully we get the retreat center done next year. I really truly hope so. And I can get that off my hair. When that's done, please come to the retreat center when it's being built. Keep associating with good people. And you will get there. Life becomes easier and easier, and you are person which just goes through life without not so much holding. There is not the big difference from day 1 to day 31st. And you can see the change then. Then you can reflect what happened from the January 1st to Christmas, December 31st. You can see good things have happened. So we aiming to lean towards happiness. That's the point of Buddhism. Everything is suffering, but you know why? The path is to end the suffering, right? So how do you see something is going well with your practice? You're leaning towards happiness. You're able to let go. You're able to disappear. You're able to smile. You're able to be at ease even on these difficult times. Those are the tests. Sometimes these little, things happen in life. Those are the tests. COVID, it was a bit of a test, but it wasn't that bad. Somebody having an Alzheimer's, it's a test, and it's especially when you are a caretaker, it's a testing period. But even that will end. Even being somebody's care, sometimes being the care is the testing time, really, really testing. But it will also end. Everything will end. So keep at it. Keep seeing that what brings the real happiness in mind. Where are the happinesses lies? And then you are really following the Buddha's footsteps. And slowly, slowly we get there. There's no other way. I think that's the talk today. Very good. Thank you so much. Sadhu. All right. Questions, comments, complaints?
Thank you, Ajahn. We will alternate for the question between the whole on the Zoom and then afterwards on YouTube. Thank you.
So we start with the whole. Anyone can put their hands in the question. Dr. Chaya, thank you. It's not. Is the volume down or? It's on the side.
Yeah, it is interesting how the mind of Arahat works and mind of a non-Arahat works, like people like us. I think if every moment something happens, and then you analyze, and then you connect to yourself, or you let go. I mean, in the Pali word is Ashwada, Dinava, and Nisarana. The Arhat there should be a personality to cling to these mind moments as connected to you, because you have to have a self to connect it to you. And of course, in that process, you make stories as well, papanya, conceptual proliferation. A mind of an Arahat has no self, but the knowledges are there, but they are not attached to a personality. So that's why we are always practicing to be as such. So we have to practice this letting go. You don't keep information, knowledge in your memory as connected to me, mine, and myself. I mean, from the time we are born, we are accumulating this information. Some are just necessary to live with this world, like to go around, how to live in this world. But most of it are information based on me, mine, and myself. This is my mother, this is my father, this is my friend, my school, everything. I think those are the things that give you a lot of trouble in life, you see. This attachment comes from those informations. Right. The rest of the memory is actually necessary to live in this conditioned world. Information that you accumulate from the time we are born. I mean, that is the whole practice, is to let go and not... The view of self gets thinner and thinner. There's no person to hang on to these mind moments. That's the practice, isn't it? I mean, that's the practice.
Sure, it is, but it is difficult to as you know, there's if you have a new baby coming into family, it's difficult not to get attached to that, right? Have you experienced that?
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. Yeah,
yeah.
of course, because we
Yeah.
have a self-view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's you as a grandparent, as a parent, we know, and it's like anything or attached to your mother or your dog or whatever. It's so difficult. It's easy to say that we shouldn't be attached to that, and it creates a lot of suffering. You see your grandson now as a suffering. How can you say that? It's easier, it's very high-fluting to say that, or it's all that. But look, slowly we have to lean way of giving them that kind of like we hold on to our happiness for that. We have to find the happiness within ourselves. Grandchildren are happiness. There is a certain happiness, but boy, if they get sick, you suffer. But we need to lean into finding the happiness, become the island for ourselves. The happiness is within ourselves. It doesn't depend so much from the condition. Whether it's our body gets sick, somebody else gets sick, somebody dies. We need to keep looking at the practices, slowly keep turning inside, and I can stand on my two own feet. It's difficult, and it's, it's baby steps towards that, but it's, sure, it's, if you could be seeing that mind moment coming, like, your mind is holding on to that and it's able to just let it disappear. Yeah, you're fully enlightened, but perhaps we're not all there yet.
That's what we're practicing, be mindful, and that's the practice.
Practice of mindfulness, absolutely.
Yeah.
Listening Dhamma, listening the right teachings, and you're somehow even just listening, being this kind of immersed into this kind of thing, we helping each other, being kalyanamitas to each other, and all that, and we slowly get there. It's a nice path. We don't have to struggle so much. Sometimes it sounds like I don't like the idea of we become stoic. Stoicism is like kind of things like nothing affects because I'm not attached. It's very kind of aggressive way. I'm stoic and I don't have any feelings. How can you cannot live like that. You can't. Don't become a stoic. You're a caring person, but the care is without attachment. That's where we're starting to try to chip away from that kind of like this strong sense of self, and that my happiness depends on this. And then when something happens, the stronger you hold on to something, the suffering is stronger. Yeah.
The entire suffering is because this weight of belonging, isn't it? I mean, that is why the ultimate happiness.
It is on. I can hear you.
Yeah. The ultimate happiness is when there's no self, of course, because there's no burden, nothing. There's nothing to.
Yeah.
So that shows that the suffering is due to the fact that there are responsibilities, your connections. That is the suffering. You have to do something. You have to look after this. You have to do this. When you're nothing, that is the real happiness, peace. That's internal. What you said earlier, is coming from internally. The true happiness is when there is no person to take responsibility for anything. Nothing. There's nothing.
It is the not having responsibility. I mean, how can you? You don't take personal responsibility because it's just cause and conditions. Things happen, and it was just nothing is really due to our own. We're not self-made people. It's just we depend on society, we depend on each other, we depend on our families, we are part of that, and that is just a conditioning we have to rely on. And the same thing with the enlightenment. We have to remember that the enlightenment happens with conditioning. So put yourself in the right place, the right time, and that's the conditioning. And you cannot just think, I'm going to get enlightened by myself.
Yeah. For me, nothing is everything. When you are nothing, everything. I mean, say it's like a drop of water merges into the ocean. We are the ocean.
Yeah.
So there is no self. We are nothing. We are everything.
Yeah. Sure.
Excuse me. On a fairly practical level, it's very hard, isn't it, dealing with, I guess it's old karma, you know, stuff to do with family stuff, old family stuff, psychological issues. They want to recur, you know, that these ugly heads pop up at you, I find.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the practice is probably most clearly useful. And I like the fact that you're saying we need to engender happiness within, because this is where we have to find it, a lot of us in any case, or we all do really, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah.
But I was just wondering, in terms of those old sort of karmic issues, do you have any particularly pertinent suggestions as, I guess, how to let them really go? For example, being in a relationship that's 57 years old with an old husband, there's all sorts of, it's like, you know, old things keep coming up, things that you can't resolve. I guess it is just a letting go process. I mean, honestly and truly.
Yeah.
But, you know, it seems to me human beings are either grieving the passing of their husbands or wives.
Yeah.
They're grieving the fact they've got Alzheimer's and are up the top in the building, and they go and visit them now and again. Or life goes on and you're sort of dealing with a very, very old relationship. It's interesting just how challenging life is, I guess, is really what I'm wanting to say. And I just wondered, yeah, I mean, you've got your father with Alzheimer's,
Yeah,
and the effect of that on your mother.
Yeah, and she's really because caretakers are really bearing the brunt, isn't it?
Is she able to drive?
No.
No, I see.
So they're in the farm just.
Yeah, there's a lot of caretakers around me whose husbands are up the top being looked after, and they're driving off every day to see them. So life never becomes really easy.
Life is not easy for anybody. That's you know, like, okay, somebody raise a hand whose life is very easy, who's never had suffering, nobody died in their family, nobody ever had been sick, everything's fine. Oh no, so it's not just you. Yeah, and the more you look into it, and it's like, and that's the interesting thing about being a monk. We just like you're just like, oh, they have it together, and then they come to talk to you, and like, oh boy, right, they really have a problem. No matter what it is, I mean, honestly, it's just so strange. You get into this life, and you go and meet millionaires, billionaires, literally. I've met in here and there, and they don't have it together. No matter what the perfect gilded toilet seat they sit in every morning, the pooing is still a lot of effort. Life is bloody hell suffering, and relationships are suffering. Why on earth did you get relationship with your husband? I'm telling you. If you could go back now 57 years ago. Yes, the one that you saw that beautiful boy 57 years ago. She was like, move on, buddy, not interested. I'm just gonna, next lifetime, I'm telling you, that's how you should do it. Do not get into a relationship. That is the bottom line. Relationships, if you want to suffer, get relationships. And there is no happy relationships. Absolutely. Don't get married, don't get boyfriends, don't get girlfriends, and no one's going to ever listen to us.
Kids is quite nice.
Getting kids are nice, right. Yeah, I'm sure. Or if you have grandchildren, then I'm sure there is certain kind. There is no... Being single is suffering. I'm telling you, that's suffering. And then you get a husband, and that's suffering. Where do you find that happiness here? You cannot. That's the problem. Yeah, you have less responsibility. You have a beautiful grandson. Let's go into the online, I'm sure.
Is it okay if I ask a question before?
Thank you, Ajahn.
Let's do the online. I'm not sure whether I'm listening. Oh, can we do online and then you do?
Yeah,
You next?
sure.
Okay, sure, okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so we have a online question from our YouTube audience. The question is, how important is it that our critical mind, that even positivity to support our practice? If the path is to take us beyond dukkha, how do we ensure that it is light and warm?
How do we ensure it's light and warm if we go beyond dukkha? How do we make sure it's light and warm? Lightness is a good point. Where there really is, it comes into that kind of don't take it too seriously. Don't laugh at yourself. Be at ease with the circumstances. Circumstances, it's nothing to do with you. And don't think it's like, oh, it's my karma. You know, sometimes in Buddhism we have this idea, it's like my karma, I have to take this, blah, blah, blah. Don't get too worried about it. Just don't buy into the story too much. The storyline is what makes you suffer. The storyline being you. Is the other people suffering? Not always. It's most of the time the suffering really comes from you. You are the suffering. You are creating problems. There's an interesting sutta that the Buddha said, when you have the wrong understanding, you're creating trouble for others, you're creating trouble for yourself, and you're creating trouble for both. Don't be a troublemaker. It's ultimately your fault. It's not the world's fault. Who is this? We in this blue little pixel in that vast the space there. We make too much of this big thing of ourselves. The universe is here within us. And obviously we have to, and there is no really disappearing and let all the suffering disappear and all that. Slowly we keep chipping at it. But then it chips away by not pushing or pulling too much. Hold it. Don't hold it so tightly. Don't be so serious about it. Be at ease. And once in a while, just stop. Breathe into the stomach. Is this really so bad? I'm still alive. Can't be that bad. Yeah, I mean, it is bad sometimes. It is. And there's all kind of suffering in life. But we slowly, we are leaning towards the happiness. We're leaning towards that, and it comes from that easiness, from that not holding so tightly, carrying the weight everywhere you think that's important. You give weight to things which are not so worth valuing. Yeah. Okay, let's go for you.
Thank you for the beautiful talk.
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm curious to get your perspective on moving through moments of trigger between transcending the ego and kind of maturing the ego with emotional processing. Like I tend to do two practices. One can be sitting in stillness and just allowing any of the noise that's causing suffering to kind of sit in the background, and then I place my attention on the stillness. But then sometimes the emotion's so intense that I'll sit directly in that emotional body and be with the emotion. And I'm just really curious to get your perspective or your idea of the Buddhist perspective on the dance between being with emotion versus just transcending it.
Yeah. It depends obviously on the situation. Sometimes the transcending doesn't happen. Sometimes sometimes the suffering is so great that it's on your face so much, or things just creep up from the past where you just cringe and they just keep coming and it seems to never leave. And I definitely understand what you're saying. Very clearly, I could see it in my own mind. The meditations and being a monk, we spend a lot of time by ourselves. We have a lot of time to reflect on that. And where are the point where you just, this is just happening again. I'm just getting frustrated about it. I'm getting angry with this situation. The blame is too. I'm blaming myself too much. Where is the point where we just have to say, I just have to stop, go for a walk, not bother with it. You have to slowly. You have to get in there. It's different situations, and they're different for you to others, and what you have experienced in life. But sometimes you have to dig your heels in. You just have to say, no, I'm gonna sit with it. I'm gonna look at it. Because if we become a person where we're always distracting ourselves, it's just too easy to put on, start looking YouTube videos or TV, or just, distract yourself all the time. Just have your headphones and listen to music and never have to really look at the suffering. Because sometimes the suffering, it's a learning experience. That's why do we leave behind the samsara? What's the ultimately why? What's the Buddha's path? Why would anybody want to leave here if there was happiness somewhere to be found? We would always go towards the happiness. It sounds a bit gloomy, but sometimes you just have to say, well, this has happened and I've learned. And if you distract yourself and you never experience that suffering, well, you don't understand how the world works. You suffer more. You just don't realize it's to getting raised up as a princess, not in your case, as a little prince, would be a massive suffering, because you would be shielded from the life a lot, but you would be just completely frustrated because you never learned. Being a princess is the worst thing in the world. Having suffering from early on, having a bit of a, not toughness, but yeah, to a certain degree is like I've done this, and that is, or I didn't do, or whatever the suffering is, like you said, that you have that. What's the point? Sometimes you just have to say that has happened, and you learn because you stood your ground. You learn how to work with it, but not to a point where it just becomes you. Really, don't make it. If it starts to become this big ball of mass of I'm here and this is who I am. When you start holding on to it, and the more frustrated and angry you get, the bigger that ball becomes. So you need to find this fine balance of being able to let it go, or be with it, but if you have those moments of quietness and nothing is, so to speak, happening, or you're able to find those pieces of mind, be with it. That's an important space as well, because that's an interesting. We don't think there is growth happening in those times, but there is. You enjoy to learn peace. You appreciate peace. You understand that this is. The mind sort of grows to appreciate the peaceness. That quiet space is, your mind leans toward. More you can have those times of quietness, the mind seems to enjoy them more and more. So it's good that you have those. So you put in the effort, and then sometimes it's you stick with it, but sometimes you have to distract yourself because it's just too much again. But if you have the moments of quietness once in a while, is important as well. And don't think that it's just nothing happened. The mind learns to appreciate quietness. And then how do you see that? It's because you go to a shopping center and it's way too much for you, or whatever you used to appreciate and you used to be, and now you're leaning away. That's too coarse of a happiness. Perhaps it's stop drinking, or stop socializing so much. And even though sometimes you feel sad that like I'm leaning away from those kind of happinesses, but it's actually you are more leaning towards quietness of the mind, and that's important. So don't get too sentimental about I should spend more time with so and so, with with this these kind of situation. I used to do that. Leave them behind. Be at ease with leaving behind of that kind of. You're going from coarse happinesses to finer happinesses, and the finer happinesses are easier. They don't leave such a strong imprint, or they're easy to let go again. So you go finer and finer happinesses, and then see that as a positive movement of the mind. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you, Ajahn. Do we have time for another question?
Sure. Yeah, I sometimes give short answers.
So the question is, the Buddha say seeing dukkha is anicca.
Would the Buddha say dukkha is anicca? Or seeing
dukkha
as
in
anicca?
anicca.
Would the Buddha say seeing dukkha
In anicca.
in anicca?
But what about seeing happiness in anicca?
Seeing happiness in anicca.
Sorry, I'll just continue the question.
Oh, geez, how many questions are there?
Because even problem pass, so how to see more happiness in anicca? For example, to develop a beautiful breath, if that help.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's concentrate on that. How to see happiness in anicca? How to see happiness in change? It's you see that there is one thing that you are suffering now, but even that will change. It won't stay the same. Nothing stays the same. Even the suffering, it will change. Maybe worse. Maybe it will get worse. No, well, sometimes it feels like it, but honestly, usually what happens is like it slowly changes, and it changes into some positive. Because of your experience of suffering, you understand how that everybody else has gone through this as well. Everybody here has some family members who has passed away. Everybody here has somebody who has broken heart, right? You know how difficult it is to have a broken heart. It's really, really, really difficult to have a divorce, or even just have a partner who has left you. It's really, really difficult. Because of that, you grow. So this change, the unreliableness, it gives us happiness. It's the same with, let's say, death contemplation. Sounds very, I don't know, dark. Sounds, it's horrible. But actually, what should happen from death contemplation if it's going well? It brings happiness to our mind. It's interesting, but when death contemplation goes well, it brings happiness. At least I'm working on my mind. A lot of other people are not. They're distracting themselves on all that. They're just going through life as like the cow towards the slaughterhouse every step you take, going towards, at least I'm doing something. At least I'm doing something good. I'm learning from these experiences, all that. So to have this, the idea of anicca, the impermanence, well, whatever there was in the past is changed, has disappeared. Whatever I'm experiencing now will change, will disappear into something else. There is no, it should bring happiness in your mind. So whatever it will be now, it will be completely different. Well, sort of different a year from now. I'm sure if I give the next talk and I'm asked the same question, everyone's like, I don't know what happened last year. Did that person die this year? Was it last year? And I was this, and how many gray hair do I have this year? Then I had less. I haven't counted, but I'm sure you'll be just almost the same. But many things have changed. So there's actually happiness in that idea, in that everything will be different. And we are leaning towards that. And when we start, and that's the whole point of this practice. It will change. No, whether you like it or lump it, make the most of it. So I'm not sure if I'm answering any of those questions, but okay. Well, quickly go into that. If like the beautiful breath. That's when you meditate, you start looking at your breath, and the mind needs to have an object. This is quickly before we go to lunch. Mind is not by itself nothing. Mind needs an object. So whatever the object is in your mind, that's where the mind is. So you go into the breath and you're just dealing with the breath when you come here, meditate, and you come to our retreat center in Newbury when it's built finally next year. You meditate and you just rest with the breath. You're resting, and the mind is just looking the breath, and then it's starting to change. It's starting to change in the beautiful breath, because a lot of this discursive, this kind of thinking mind has disappeared. The thinking mind has disappeared, and it gets replaced by happiness. And then you start dwelling with the happy mind, and you see the change, and you are able to let it go. So in that sense, you could say, it's anicca, that you can see the change. And the mind, you are able to let go, because you know further and further you go into meditation, you understand even this is not worth holding, this is not permanent, it won't change, and you are able to let go. So even when the beautiful breath starts to disappear and you go into this kind of space of nothing really happening, like you go into a dark room, you are able to let go, just rest in that space, and you are able to just let everything disappear. Don't hold on even the beauty. And if you're able to let go the beauty, then you start going deeper into meditation, and the remnant of that beauty, just like you start dealing with your own mind. So you don't hold on to that. You're not scared of it, and you are not excited, because you know it's just changing. It's just you're just going with the mind. You're just able to let go. So that's the wisdom of meditation. So letting go, and then the meditation happens. Okay. All right. Hope you see you tonight. And there's going to be a party here. Drinks are provided there, not very alcoholic, but tea and all that other stuff. And it was so nice to stay with you the whole year. I'm so glad I'm being part of the Buddhist Society of Victoria. Thank you for everybody, and we hope we see you next year many, many times. Until then, let's have a lunch. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.